Did you know that the average American spends about 60 days every year feeling cranky, upset, or overwhelmed? That's 2 months of missing out and actually feeling cranky, overwhelmed, or stressed out every single year. Well, by the end of this video, you will have the tools to realign, restart your day anytime you start to feel cranky, upset, or overwhelmed. Hi, my name is Nicoletta Pichardo. I'm your mindset coach. And together we are exploring beautiful places, and I'm inviting you to go on the greatest journey you can ever go on, which is the journey within yourself. And today we are visiting Gravelly Point here in Washington, D.C. It's just outside of Ronald Reagan Airport, and it is a fun place. And we can actually learn a lot by watching airplanes land and take off. And if you're in the area, this is a really fun place, not just for airplane watching. There's lots of green space here, so people come here to play sports, enjoy the water, do some plane watching, enjoy some of the food vendors, the food trucks that come out here, and just to have a good time. When we watch the planes land and take off, we know that the pilots are in charge. We know that they will do what they can to get that plane to land smoothly. And that's what they've done their whole flight, to make sure that it's the smoothest flight possible. And we can do the same in our life, because these bumps that get us angry or upset, that hijack our moments, our feelings, they just are like the turbulences in life. They are always going to be there, but how we react to it, that's really up to us. And there are tools that you can use so that you can get yourself restarted and back on the right path to help make things a lot more smooth. Because normally what happens, we feel upset, we feel triggered, we feel sad, and it's different for everyone. Not any one thing has us feeling the same way. So what is it for you? What is that one thing that will get you off course? Put it in the chat below. I know when I came here, a car actually, really cut me off, and I got really upset. I was like, oh, the last thing I need right now is to have a car accident because I want to do this video. But I know if I had my nephew here in the car, and he's got a pretty nice sports car, for him that probably would have been an invitation to have a little speed competition. So everybody reacts differently. What is it for you? The one thing where we're all the same is that these kinds of emotions can really get us off course. So sometimes it's that email, it's Friday afternoon, you've had a full week, a full day, and then you get that email, right at 5:30 that points out stuff that you didn't do or somebody didn't appreciate. And then that whole weekend you're thinking about it. Sometimes it can be a little bit like getting on a roller coaster. We think about it, then we push it aside, but it's really still there. You check your emails again, there's that email. You feel just as angry a couple of hours or maybe even a day later than you did in that moment. And as long as we're on that roller coaster, we really can't enjoy things, because when we're feeling angry, we're not really making good decisions. Maybe you're having a conversation with somebody, and because you're angry, now you're snapping at them. Maybe your kids, or who's somebody that you've snapped at in that moment. So it's not a productive place to be in. And certainly when we're feeling down, we're not fun to be with. We are hard on ourselves. And then have you noticed when you're feeling down on yourself, you can think of all the things that you've ever done that didn't feel good, didn't bring you where you wanted to be. So this roller coaster of feeling angry and upset and overwhelmed isn't just costing you in that moment of feeling it. It can really have an impact. I mean, that argument that you have, or not calling somebody back because you're feeling down, all those things actually have consequences. So just like being in a plane, you don't want to stay there. You want to get yourself out as quickly as possible. And that's what pilots do. When they see that there's bad weather, they will map around, they will think about flying higher or lower. They take action. They don't just say, well, that's all we can do. Sometimes that's the only choice that they have, but they will do whatever they can to minimize the bumps, to minimize the pockets, so that it's a smooth flight. And we can do that too. We can take charge of our own life. So the first thing that we have to understand, you have to understand, is that you're the pilot of your life. You own emotions, and they don't own you. Sometimes we give up a lot of our power by saying, well, that's just how I feel. Somebody made me feel that way. No, it's something about you. Somebody did something, and that's the reaction you had. But if you can take on that you own all of your emotions, that's the ultimate power, because if you own all of the emotions, you can choose to feel any way you want to. And when you have the right tools, it's much easier, much faster to shift out of any emotion that you want. So as the pilot in your life, you own the emotions, which means you have ultimate control. So the first thing you want to do when you're feeling upset or sad or triggered is to just acknowledge the emotion, listen to the emotion, but don't stay there. Because sometimes what happens is we start feeling angry. Something happens, you feel angry or upset, and in our brain, we start connecting all the similar emotions that have to do with feeling that negative way. So you're feeling angry at your boyfriend, husband, or somebody at work, and what does the brain do? It probably can connect you to every other time that this person has upset you. And that doesn't help you to get out of it. It just fuels the fire of anger. Or the same as if something happens and let's say you're feeling down on yourself because, somebody made a comment or something stood out or something triggered you to feel down in some way. It will probably trigger other areas in your brain that lead you to remember all the things that you've done where you didn't show up, or maybe that didn't work out either, or where you're feeling sad, and all of a sudden it's like, it's a downward spiral. So it's important to recognize the emotions in that moment and put a label on them, because name it to claim it. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling really angry. Just don't indulge. Don't allow yourself to stay there. This is the control you actually have. Give yourself a time limit. Now, time limits might sound a little bit strange, but you can give yourself a time limit. It is okay when something happens to have an emotional reaction. Sometimes people tell me, I never want to feel angry, or I never want to feel sad again. No, if somebody did something, if somebody wronged you in some way, it's natural to feel angry or to feel sad, but give yourself a time limit. If right now something happens and you're spending days. One time I had a client, she said she didn't call back her clients for a month because she was just feeling so deflated about herself. She didn't want to call anybody there. So whatever that emotion is, put a time limit on it. If before you were a month, take it down to maybe a couple of weeks, take it down to days, take it down to hours, take it down to minutes. And I usually try to stick with 1 to 2 minutes. Feel completely upset for 1 to 2 minutes. Just experience it. Somebody just did something. Feel super sad about something that just happened, or maybe you messed up. That's okay. But put a time limit on it and don't go over the time limit. And lastly, change your focus. The only way that you can actually get out of feeling the way you are, cranky, upset, sad, is by changing your focus. That's the main thing. It's the only way that you can get out of feeling that way. When we focus on feeling a certain emotion, angry, we have to completely shift that around if we want to feel a different way. And you can change your focus by doing a lot of things. Sometimes it's the focus on physically what we're looking at. If you keep rereading that email 10 times, email isn't going to change. You're going to feel terrible every time you read it. No new outcome, and it just keeps the cycle going. So look up, look outside. In this case, look at the beautiful trees, watch some planes, but do something that changes your focus on what you're looking at. Change, most importantly, what you're thinking about. This is the most important part. Change the focus of what your thoughts are. The quality of your thoughts really define everything. So if you're focused on feeling angry and you're focused on remembering everything that ever got you angry, it's going to be very difficult for you to shift. So start thinking about, what did you like about that person? Or what are you grateful for that you learned? Or anything that would change your focus. Maybe you're making this person wrong by expecting something of them that they couldn't do, or of yourself. But whatever you do, changing the focus will change how you feel. And when you change how you feel, you can take different steps. You can make different decisions. So when you're angry, you make a different quality of decision than when you're feeling empowered. So empower yourself by really being mindful of what is it that you're focusing on and what can you focus on instead. And a quick way to do that, by the way, is go take a walk, go do some jumping jacks, listening to some empowering music, anything that will support you shifting. Now, I'm sharing this with you, and you might think, oh, well, this is all, just very academic. But for me, I used to have a really, really hard time shifting out of feeling sad and down. Many years ago, I noticed that things would get really sad for me for a really long time, for weeks actually, for a really long time, when I was in a really bad spot in my marriage, and it was just really hard for me to shift for anything. And it wasn't until I really became very intentional, and I thought, okay, if I spent years getting to that point, I have the power, I'm the pilot, that I can create a shift. That was the starting point for me, really saying I want to create a shift. And I started to put a time limit on it. So I would tell myself, okay, I'm feeling really lousy today, but I can't feel lousy when the kids come home, or I can't feel lousy. I want to feel better during these times of the day. Then I started to change my focus by rethinking about what was happening in my life. I started exercising. I started doing different things, and that changed my focus. And now, many years later, of course, I get sad like anybody else, but I don't allow myself to stay there. I give myself the 1 to 2 minute rule. I allow myself to feel down and out like anybody else, but I don't stay there. So I'd love to know from you in the chat below, where can you try this out? Or how can you try this out? I'd love to know. With that, trust yourself, trust the journey, and see you next time.